How would you feel if you entered graduate school studying great literature and the professor comes out and says, okay, now we're going to learn our ABCs? How would you feel if you were working on a PhD in astrophysics and you go to the chair of your committee and you say, here's the project I want to work on, gravitational lensing, I've got some ideas. Oh, no. Why don't you do a really colorful mosaic of the solar system with the sun and the planets? Don't worry about the moons. That's a little bit too complicated. Or how would you feel if you were working on an MBA and you took a course in international tariffs because you're thinking, I want to get into import-export. And the instructor comes in and says, okay, everybody take off your shoes. We're going to do this a little different. Put your feet up. We're going to play This Little Piggy Went to International Market. If you wouldn't put up with that garbage in graduate school, why would you put up with it in the Christian church? Over my 18 years here at St. Mary's, I've endeavored to speak honestly to you about what Scripture is and what it calls us to in our spiritual journeys. And that, some of you know, has got me in trouble with bishops and others, and it's upset people in the congregation. But I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not going to give you kindergarten spirituality, because even bishops sometimes are caught in the kindergarten church. Having said that, the following homily is rated MC-17 for its mature content and strong sexual content. That one got your attention, didn't it? What's going on here? We have such a literal mindset when it comes to Scripture. Everybody thinks, oh, Jesus was sitting there in the dark and Nicodemus comes up. It really happened. Doesn't matter. What we have is a story. And what matters is the truth that rises out of that story that touches you where you live right now in this moment. And I'm going to share with you how I understand this story, which is, up there in the top 10 of Christian Scripture, John 3:16, how this story strikes me as real spiritual meat, not a juice box you get in kindergarten. Okay, it's the meat of graduate school. I'm going to do that through a poem that Jalaluddin Rumi wrote, because I think he exegetes this extremely well. There was a feast. The king was hardly in his cups. He saw a learned scholar walking by. Bring him in and give him some of this fine wine. Servants rushed out and brought the man to the king's table, but he was not receptive. I had rather drink poison. I have never tasted wine and never will. Take it away from me. Now, Rumi's using a metaphor with wine. Wine is spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is like Nicodemus. He comes to Jesus in darkness. He's in the dark because he's like this learned scholar. Up in his head, he hasn't made the connection to his heart. Neither has this scholar. And so Rumi says the king's going to make the scholar drink. He kept on with these loud refusals, disturbing the atmosphere of the feast. This is how it sometimes is at God's table. Someone who has heard about ecstatic love but never tasted it disrupts the banquet. If there were a secret passage from his ear to his throat, everything in him would change. Initiation would occur. That's what this gospel is all about. It's about initiation. Jesus talks to Nicodemus. See, I'm using the language of the story. Don't go literal on me here. Jesus talks to Nicodemus about being born from above. And where's Nicodemus with his heady stuff? What? How do I get back into my mother's womb? How can I be born again? He can't get it. He can't grasp the metaphor. As it is, he's all fire and no light, all husk and no kernel. And that's why people aren't coming to Christian kindergarten anymore. It's all husk, no kernel. It's all fire, no light. Because Christianity will offer you one of two things. You can either get really heady with it, or you can just emote all over the place. And rarely does a good Christian church offer you the opportunity to put that kernel in the husk, to let that light reveal a true fire. So the king gave orders. Cupbearer, do what you must. This is how your invisible guide acts. The chess champion across from you, that always wins. He cuffed the scholar's head and said, taste. And again, the cup was drained. And the intellectuals started singing and telling ridiculous jokes. Well, there you go. If I am initiated, I'm going to change. I can't help but change. I'll still have that headiness or that emotional stuff, but it's going to level out. I'm going to be, oh wait, I'm going to be what Paul said, a new creature. I'm going to be, oh no, what all those fundamentalists talk about. I'm going to be born again. See? Scary stuff. But it shouldn't be scary. This is the work we're called to do in Christian graduate school. Unfortunately, the church has left you in Sunday school. He joined the garden, snapping his fingers and swaying. Soon, of course, he had to pee. Here comes the sex part, in case you were wondering. He went out, and there near the latrine was a beautiful woman, one of the king's harem. His mouth hung open. He wanted her. Right then, he wanted her. And she was not unwilling. They fell too on the ground. You've seen a baker rolling dough. He kneads it gently at first, then more roughly. He pounds it on the board. It softly groans under his palms. Now he spreads it out and rolls it flat. Then he bunches it and rolls it all the way out again, thin. Now he adds water and mixes it well. Now salt and a little more salt. Now he shapes it delicately to its final shape and slides it into the oven, which is already hot. You remember bread making? This is how your desire tangles with a desired one. And it's not just a metaphor for a man and a woman making love. Warriors in battle do this too. A great mutual embrace is always happening between the eternal and what dies, between essence and accident. There's the kernel within the husk. There's the story that Jesus is trying to pull Nicodemus out of his darkness to a place of understanding and comprehension so initiation can take place. The sport has different rules in every case, but it's basically the same. And remember, the way you make love is the way God will be with you. Wow. The way you make love is the way God will be with you. There's a lot of pornographic theology out there. Keep on that theme. Pornographic theology to me is scholars writing reams and reams and reams about, well, did this story in John's gospel, did it really happen? Or was it just a metaphor? What are we missing when we do garbage like that? We're missing the truth of the story itself. The story is what we have, and the story contains truth. If I just gush all over this, for God so loved the world, and go to the Jets or the Giants game and hold up John 3:16, it's the same thing. Jesus, through John's writing of this story, is inviting us to an incredible place of intimacy with the divine. That's what it's all about. That's what happens when initiation takes place. The world changes. Everything's made new. It's just like when you do make love to your lover, and that person's not just something to use for a drive, not a pornographic thing, but a merging not only of the body, the flesh, but of the spirit as well. You must be washed by water and the Spirit. Do you see it? And when that happens, an orgasmic spiritual experience takes place. And you'll know initiation. You'll know union with the divine.